Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia, the Watchtower Study Edition, 2019. Study Article 44. We're doing a theological audit on this. And we haven't got, it's taken 2 presentations, and I haven't gotten past the first line in context to how the Jehovah Witnesses treat people that don't suit their beliefs. You get into all this trouble with shunning. But the scripture they're quoting on the subject of build strong friendships before the end comes is, a true friend show loves at all times. But that doesn't seem to be the case in the Jehovah Witness organization, as we'll see in the following presentation. So please watch and enjoy. I don't mind referring out to other videos. I mean, the people that have experienced it know more about it than what I do. But for now, we'll turn to the following video.
Back to the Summer of Love Never Shuns. Jehovah's Witnesses are having their conventions this summer with the title Love Never Fails, and of course all of us who know the truth about the truth know what a hypocritical thing it is for them to try to talk about how great they are at showing love. Now, a couple weeks ago I made a video talking about friendships that I've made, some unconditional love that I've experienced in regards to getting to go on a birthday trip this year for my birthday, very first ever celebrated birthday. I thought it was a really cool story, but even so, I got a comment on that video. What does this have to do with shunning? So, you know what? If you want to hear a story about how evil shunning is, I got a story about that for you, and I think it's good to talk about in this video. Now, when talking about how evil institutionally mandated shunning is, of course it merits discussion about Watchtower's own teachings of whether or not they break up families. Now, of course, when you ask any Jehovah's Witnesses, they're never going to admit that Watchtower breaks up families. In fact, if you go on their website on jw.org, I think they even have a frequently asked question, do Jehovah's Witnesses break up families? And then you'll see in videos, you'll see in things that have come out, there's a really good example when Watchtower had to go in front of Canada's Supreme Court, and they actually were talking about, we don't shun people, they make the decision to leave the organization, and then family ties remain, it's only spiritual ties that are cut. But of course, any of us who have ever been Jehovah's Witnesses know it's a complete and total lie when they try to say that they don't break up families. Now, I have a story that I think just really well illustrates how you can take a parent who will go to an absolute extreme one way to take care of their child, but then they go the complete opposite extreme once that child decides to leave the organization. And I can think of no better story to tell than the story of my dad, my superhero dad. So to make a long story short, when I was at Warwick in 2016, I knew that I needed a car. I wanted to have a little bit of a sense of my own autonomy, and so I was looking around and I was able to find a car that I purchased, and long story short, that car just ended up being a total piece of garbage. But when I got kicked out of Bethel in November of 2016, I had this crazy idea to road trip, drive from Warwick all the way back to my hometown in Central Washington. And I had friends who were scattered throughout the United States, in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Florida, Georgia. I was going to cut across, go south to Florida, cut across over to Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, and then California, Oregon, back up north to Washington. And I was going to hit like 20, 25 states that I wanted to visit in about 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks. And so I had to do some work to get this car, at least, it wasn't going to be perfect, but it would get me home for, where I was going to get to go. But I had troubles with this car the entire time, pretty much. From the moment I left Warwick until I got home, that car was just nothing but a headache. But the absolute worst part of that journey actually happened in Big Timber, Montana. And so I was there visiting friends in Oklahoma, and I decided I was just going to cut out the rest of my trip. It wasn't worth it. I was just going to beeline to home. Looked up some routes, how to get from Oklahoma to Washington the quickest way, and it was to go north up to Montana and then shoot across. Once I hit I-90, it's pretty much a straight shot back to my hometown. So the first day, I go from Oklahoma all the way up to just right outside of Montana. I've been driving for 10 or 11 hours, and the road was starting to kind of go like this, and I was like, I better stop. It's probably not safe for me to keep driving. So I find a Motel 6, park, spend the night. I get up really early the next day and jet on over to I-90, and as soon as I get on I-90, it's like, this is a straight shot. I can get my way home. I don't even need GPS at that point. And so it was starting to look like it was going to be okay. I was going to get home that day, move on in life, whatever. At this point, it was the middle of December. There was snow on the ground, and it was really cold, but I was going to be able to get home without any issues, supposedly. So I start driving on I-90, and I get to this town called Big Timber, Montana. And I stop, I get some gas, and that fill up would have lasted me all the way home. And the wind and the weather was starting to be kind of whack. There was 60, 70, 80 mile an hour wind gusts that they said on the news that was kicking up snowdrifts, and the visibility was extremely low, high winds. It wasn't actually snowing, it was just the winds were kicking up a bunch of snow. And I looked at the weather reports, and it said if you can get past a certain point, you'll be in the clear. There won't be any more issues. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get back on the freeway. I can go slow. I just got to get past this little bit of whack wind that's going through here, and I can get home. So that's what I decided to do. I got back on the freeway, but visibility was just zero. I couldn't see inches in front of my car. The wind was blowing so bad, kicking up the snow. And so I'm thinking, okay, this was a bad idea. I'm going to pull off at the next exit, maybe find a hotel. I don't know. We'll see what goes out. What's going to happen. And right when I made that decision, it was too late. I couldn't see it, but there was some debris in the road, and I go to roll over it. And I'm just praying that nothing happens. But I hear a clunk clunk, and then a dragging sound on the ground. So what had happened is the debris on the road that I hit was just enough to... The gas tank on my car was barely being held on by the metal straps, apparently, and whatever I hit was enough to finally destroy those straps, and the gas tank fell onto the ground. And so here I am in high wind, snow kicking up everywhere, my hands are freezing, just desperately trying to jack up my car and strap up the gas tank so that I could just get off the freeway and find a hotel to wait this thing out. State patrolman actually came up, and he's like, "What are you doing out here?" And he drags me into his car, takes me to the nearest hotel. And I finally start to calm down. I'm calling my dad saying, what the heck do I do in this situation? And he's like, well, we got AAA, so call up AAA, see what they can do for you. And they were going to be able to come and get my car, but it's going to be like a 2 or 3 day wait. And so I ended up having to camp in this hotel for a couple days. And that's actually a whole nother story, again, about unconditional friendship and love you find with just non-Jehovah's Witnesses. And to make a long story short, what ended up happening was they got my car towed off the freeway, taken to a mechanic, and the mechanic said it was going to be like $1,000 in parts and labor, and it was going to be like 3 or 4 days before he could even get the parts. And so I didn't know what to do at that point. I was just completely shot. And so I called up my dad and my mom, and I was just telling them what was going on. And my dad's like, I'm going to come get you. And I said, no, don't worry about it. He's like, no, I'm going to come get you. I'll get off work tonight, I'll get the truck from Grandpa, and I'll come get you. So that's what he did. So my dad's a service plumber, so he works hard all day from 8 o'clock until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, gets off work a little early, gets the pickup, and then he drives straight 10 hours from my home in Central Washington to where I was at in Big Timber, Montana. So my dad gets there at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and he's like, I'm shot, just let me lay down for a minute, get a little bit of sleep, and then we'll go get a trailer from the U-Haul, load up your car, and we'll get home. So that's what happened. Here I was in a desperate situation, probably the most dire situation I've ever experienced in my life, and my superhero dad came 10 hours overnight after working all day to come and rescue me. And I'm not a parent myself, but I'm given to understand that parental love that you have for your children is one of the most strongest things that you can experience as a human being. So the point of me telling this story is that here's an obvious extreme that my dad was willing to go to save one of his adult children when they were in a desperate situation. So you would think that he would have that same reaction to any other major event in his child's life. But when it came out that I no longer believed in the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses, that was not the experience I had with him at all. In fact, the night that he and my mom sat me down to tell me that they were going to kick me out of the house, it was almost like he didn't even try. He said a couple of words, he tried to ascertain a couple of things, but you could tell that he was just acting like an elder that was defending the congregation. Here he was doing it in his family. And then over the course of the months since I've left my parents' house and have been moving on in my life, I've interacted with my dad twice now, and every situation that's how it's been, where you could just tell he's completely and utterly defeated with the fact that I'm gone. So I could tell you a little bit about the story of the conversation I had with my parents the night they kicked me out of their house. My dad starts with, because I guess the way he found out was that I had been dating a JW girl at the time, and she went and told the elders that we had been dating, but it was over, just let them know that what was going on, and that she was concerned about me because I had told her that I no longer believed in the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses. So my dad starts off with, oh, I should give you a hug, when people have a breakup, it's usually a very difficult thing to go through. And then after that, he starts off with, well, she told us something that has me very worried, actually very, very, very concerned, very scared. And he's like, do you want to tell us anything? And I just flat out told him, I don't believe in being one of Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. And then the conversation that followed, it was what you'd expect from parents that learning that their children don't believe in the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. He asked me why I didn't go to the elders or to him with my doubts, and I told him I didn't have doubts, I had major concerns, but we all know you're not allowed to have concerns with the organization if you want to remain a Christian in good standing. And he says, yeah, but you got to trust in Jehovah if you have things that are not quite clear. And I said, I'd rather have questions that I can't answer than answers that I can't. And he cuts me off and he's like, I don't want to hear your human thinking about stuff. And then we were talking about how we were feeling and being heartbroken. And I said that, yeah, I know, I've been here when I've had friends who left being a witness, and I know how you feel. And my dad, again, he just cuts me off. He's like, you have no idea how I feel. Like, I would give my life for you to not feel this way anymore. And there it was again, where it was all just about him. And me leaving Jehovah was his worst scenario that he could even imagine, which I guess in his mind it is. And then at the end of the conversation, he just flatly says to me, he says, well, we love you, and you're always welcome at our house. As long as you're not disfellowshipped, you're always welcome at our house. But we can't continue to support you in this, and you need to find other living arrangements. And yeah, that was it. There was no fight. There was no begging me to stay with Jehovah. There was no begging me to. There was no trying to hear me out and listen to what I was thinking and feeling at the time. This is how it's got to be. And I'm the parent. I'm in the right. You're the silly wayward child, and get out of my house. And then I had one other major interaction with him. I actually made a video about it. I posted on my YouTube channel. The first take of that video, I couldn't stop crying, and then went to bed, woke up the next morning, and refilmed that video with me a little bit more level-headed. So I'll link that in the description to see my reaction with the last conversation I had with my dad. And that was the realization I had at the time, was that it's the parents of the children who are disfellowshipped or leave that really truly suffer. Because it's not ideal for me that I'm estranged from my parents, but life kind of moves on, and you learn to pick up the pieces and move forward. You make new friends and family. But my parents now, they're the ones who every day fret and worry over they have 2 sons now that are disfellowshipped or disassociated. And yeah. So talking about religiously mandated shunning just goes to show you how evil of a thing it is. Because, like I said, I'm not a parent. But everything I've ever heard from anyone who is a parent is that your entire life becomes your children when they're born. And for Watchtower to be an organization that has successfully gotten parents by the thousands, maybe even millions, who knows, to treat their children like they're dead, it just has to show you how evil of an organization the Watchtower is. So the current situation I'm sitting in, even though my dad at one point in my life came to rescue me in my most dire situation of life, now that I'm, in his opinion, in even a more dire situation, he's got to remain faithful to Jehovah above trying to save his child. So